Welcome to the Edwards Table. I'm Amy Edwards, and I'm joined here by my daughter, Maddie. This season, we're going to sit down right here at the Edwards dining table and have great conversation about my wildly messy story. And thankfully, there's a beautiful ribbon of redemption woven throughout that only God himself could weave through it. So super excited to be here. Thanks for joining. Grab a seat and let's jump in. Well, hey everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again. Welcome back to the Edwards Table. Again, I'm Amy, my daughter Maddie, seated with me this season. We're just kind of stepping through my story, start to current, and we're over halfway through, almost 2/3. We're not we're not mathy people.
I was gonna say, I don't know.
And we have probably about 12 for this season planned out. So, whatever. We're that many through, so you can percent that away.
Yeah.
In any case, so over the course of telling my story, we've talked about childhood abuse, great childhood memories also, a lot of just wild things that have gone on in my story. Wild has been the theme word for the whole thing. And the past couple of episodes kind of talk through having babies and what that looked like, my babies in heaven, also our home situation with having our own business years ago and the 08-09 economy crash and what that did to us, losing everything. And so during that time, we actually started really feeling like we were supposed to grow our family. And if you caught a couple episodes back, I think it was maybe one or two back, where I talked about at 29 I had a complete hysterectomy. So there was no unless we had some supernatural situation going on,
Right.
there would be no more babies at our house.
Right.
And so one of our good friends talked to Dad about going on a mission trip, and they actually went to an orphanage in China. Mm-hmm. And that really encouraged us as I was homeschooling you guys. We learned about the culture and the food and the people, and just fell in love with some of these children. And we talked about adoption. And so we really didn't necessarily feel led that it had to be an international adoption per se. But we had started this little fundraiser, if you will, at home, mm-hmm. where we started raising money in our Zoe jar.
Yeah.
And a really cool thing that happened out of that is the friend that invited Daddy to go on that mission trip actually, over the course of the next 2 years, brought her home. Mm-hmm. And at that time, we had no idea who, we didn't know her at all other than seeing her picture. And so, and being praying for her and things like that, but had no idea. Yeah. So it was wild and fun, but super cool. Well, in the course of that for us, Daddy came home from China and definitely said, it just confirmed we needed to open our home up. And so we went through an organization in Memphis that was a nonprofit that partnered with the state, but they were our go-to. So they trained us, they got us mm-hmm. ready for fostering. And it was funny, we went to, I think it was our first or second meeting, and we were listening and they were sharing, that there was a stipend that they paid to foster families. And the money was intended for you to get it, but to, pay for whatever you needed.
It's for paying for the kids, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
It's money that's supposed to go into their well-being.
Right. Yeah. And so, which Dad was flabbergasted. He was like, I had no idea that there was money. Yeah. So we went through I don't even remember, it was a lot of hours of educational classes, got our foster care certification, mm-hmm. filled out our case study information where they had come in and out of our home several times, checked on everything, make sure we have a room set, and all of the things are working. And they've interviewed people who are going to be potential caregivers, and then if we needed a babysitter and all. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into becoming a foster family.
Yeah, it makes me wonder how Texas does it, because I was in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. It's very similar, because I actually looked into it when we moved here. But all this to say, so we we filled out our paperwork, and when we did, they ask you, I mean, it's pages of questions, and they ask you, are there any types of children that you feel that you either couldn't take in, could take in, but would need some training and support, you know, that kind of thing. So the only thing that we said that we weren't like 100% yes, send them on in was for medically fragile children, we would need extra support for that.
Yeah.
And training, obviously. But then also, they asked that about ethnicity. And the way they phrased the question was, is there any group that you feel less knowledgeable about, I guess? And we marked Native American Indian. Because, I mean, as far as I know, we don't have any Native American Indians in either side of our families. And I'm not very familiar, kind of a thing. I mean, knowing history, yes, but not like cultural pieces and things like that. So we got certified. I don't remember what day of the week it was, but I was at work, and it was in the afternoon, and it was the next day or 2 days later. I got a phone call from the organization that we fostered through, and our liaison called and was like, hey, congratulations on getting your certification, you know, super excited for y'all or whatever. And I was like, oh, thanks. And he was like, so are y'all ready for an emergency placement? And I was like, well, tell me a little about, you know, is it one child or, you know, sibling group, whatever. And he was like, no, it's one child. And they're a level 4, which in the realm of fostering, they give this 1 to 5 rating of a child depending on the circumstances of what they're coming through or from. So like 1 would be they come from a very good home, and maybe, you know, tragically the parents died in an automobile accident and there's no one to take the children. Whereas a level 5 child is not allowed to live in a foster home. They actually have to live in a group home. So level 4 is the highest level that they will send a child into a foster home. That was a little bit disconcerting because we'd never fostered a child before, and we're kind of like, whoa. And then this child was Native American Indian. I was like, fabulous. So I will need to do some research and study up on that. And it was an emergency placement, meaning that that day in court, the judge ordered the child removed. So he had been picked up, but they needed a home for him to go to that night. Yeah. I said, well, give me 20 minutes. Let me call John and talk to him, and then I'll get back with you. So I did. I called Daddy, and we laughed because we were like, okay, well, I guess we just like cannonballed in the deep end on this one. We're going full on. Oh, one other piece. They always taught us, like, keep your birth order of your family the same. Like, if you're going to bring children in, have them younger than your youngest child. So at the time, you were 5, and this child was 6.
Yeah.
So literally everything was like, don't know, not a good idea, you shouldn't do this. Excuse me, but I don't know, we just had this piece about it. We felt, you know, this is what we knew we were signing up for. Yeah. We knew this was the right thing to do. So we started this first night ordering Chinese takeout as our dinner, and then it became tradition every time we would get a new placement because it's fun to eat Chinese food. You get chopsticks. Everybody eats pretty much. You can figure something out of that at least rice. People, you know, most of the kids would eat rice and whatnot. And fortune cookies are always fabulous. So I remember it was later that afternoon or evening, we had gotten the Chinese food delivered, and shortly thereafter, or almost at the same time, the caseworker showed up with this little fella, and we're gonna call him Frank. Very timid and shy, nervous as he came in. And of course, you know, you and Quinn were both eager and excited, and it was one of those where we're like, okay, we gotta, you know, give him some space and things like that. Of which very quickly he picked up on the fact that he was in a good place and he was going to be taken good care of. And from that day forward, we had him in our home, and the two of y'all became thick as thieves. Y'all were definite besties, doing all of the things together. So as y'all came into the school year, you were turning 6, he was turning 7, and you guys all went to school where I worked, which was it was a sweet little private Christian school, and we were able to get him in, so he had school to go to and was welcomed open arms and all the things, and just it's kind of like when you have birth children, your first child usually gives you a very unrealistic expectation of what it's going to be like the next time, because he's a very good boy, and treated you just like family, treated Quinn just like family, listened, obeyed when he was talked to. He was good in school. He was just a great kid, just a great kid. Very eager to learn and try new things. I'll never forget the day that he was learning how to ride his bike. He had never learned before, and fell down multiple times, but refused to give up and kept getting back up and kept getting back up. And so over the course of time, so he's biracial, but here in the United States, a child who has Native American blood in them is considered 51%. So when you meet someone who is biracial that way, it's still, the law of the land is, if you can prove lineage, then the tribe has authority over that child. Well, in this situation, the mother wanted his ethnicity or his bloodline proven, and at that point, his father had died when he was really little, and so she tracked down grandparents. They were willing to do it. Now, the tricky part of this was, in the state of Tennessee, the judge had already ordered her TPR, which is termination of parental rights, and we, for 8 months, thought that we were adopting him. And so, we lived life, did life, talked around life that way, where always he was our son, he was our part of our family, and that kind of a thing. And so, because the TPR order did not get put through officially through the courts before she requested his lineage be proven, they did a DNA test and found his grandparents through his grandmother. And when we got the results in court, and the judge, the bailiff, the stenographer, Dad and I, all of us were just weeping. We had been in court with this judge before. He was super cool. His stenographer, the bailiff, all of them were really nice people. And for those of you maybe not familiar with fostering, you go to court. Typically, you go once a month. The child may or may not go with you. Birth parents may or may not attend. It just kind of depends on what and why things are going on. And in this situation, we averaged about once every 4 weeks. We would go in and check in and give in the information and whatever else. Well, they did prove his lineage, and we were told that we would be contacted by the tribe, and they did. They reached out and let us know that he would be picked up in 2 days, and it happened to be the same weekend as his birthday. So we already had his birthday all planned out, and we wound up turning it into a celebration and until we see you next time. So it was devastating, absolutely devastating. I remember we came back to the school, dropped him off, let him go back to his class, and pulled you and Quinn out to talk to you and let you know what was going on, because we did not want you guys to get that information from anyone else. And thankfully, there was an awesome guidance counselor at y'all's school, and she checked up on you guys to make sure y'all were good. I was on campus, so that was a good thing. We were all very sad. This little fellow was very sad. He did not want to go. It was very hard for him to understand why we wouldn't keep him. And at 7, he just was turning 7, so like also receiving information from other sources, not just us, and hearing from his family. Sometimes he wouldn't get accurate information. And so we were introduced to his grandparents, and they are lovely human beings, and were very gracious as they took him to live with them on the reservation. Also, they weren't given really options. It was more of a, he's yours, therefore you will.
Yeah.
And so the day that we had to bring him, like actually I think they came over and like we helped pack up some of his stuff, but obviously living with us for 8 months, he had clothes and toys and all of that. And they wouldn't let him bring a lot of his toys. They said we could catch up later and do that, which we were pretty confident that probably wouldn't happen. And he was moving about, I think it was a 5-hour drive from Memphis to where he was going. So in the meantime, I stayed up through the night for 2 nights, and I put together a book through Shutterfly, I think is what I used, and like wrote him a little book of his story with us, and put our phone number in the back, my phone number in the back, and sent him off with that, so he had a way, to potentially contact us or whatever. And over the course of, like, I'll just fast forward and jump ahead, but like over the years, I mean, obviously that was how many years ago and now you're in your 20s?
Yeah,
a lot of years ago.
We already said we can't really do math. So.
Yeah, we're not mathing. But as hard as that was, and it was gut-wrenching because he was family and is family. He still is to this day. Don't hear me say he's not. It was definitely just a tearing out of our heart. And I know, and I only share this part because of me being your mama, but I know that the day that he left us, you didn't cry, and Dad and I obviously were concerned. We knew it would come. We knew the tears would come one day, but it was just a very traumatic day. He was very upset and crying. Quinn was very upset and crying. I was upset and crying. Daddy was crying. But you didn't cry. And we knew, like I said, we knew it was coming. And I don't know, it was probably a week later. And I was out in the kitchen making dinner. And Dad had started the shower for you and left you back there while I don't know where he went, but he was somewhere in the house. But he wasn't back there, but he was somewhere in the house. And I mean, all of a sudden, we just hear this like guttural sound. And it was unlike anything I'd ever heard come certainly out of a child, but even out of an adult. I mean, it was from the depths of your little soul of just so sad. Every time I talk about your Matt, I get teary.
Good Lord.
Well,
I'm making her sad. I gotta be taken off.
Well, no, I think because I know how you are not someone who is overly emotional, that when you do get that way, it is like, it's definitely from the guts. And I came back there, and that was when, for you, that was when your time to be sad was. And it was just me wrapping you up in a towel and just rocking you for about an hour and letting you cry it out and all the fun things. But, and then when we would talk to him, obviously they were very gracious. Thankfully, his grandparents were very gracious. Let us talk to him on the phone. We got to go down and pick him up, bring him back to Memphis for some holidays, or go out to Atlanta when we were going. So we got to do some fun things along the way.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, in the recent past, he had been trying to do some things with his life and was trying to get some help, and called me, and it did not go according to plan, and so it got a little icky for a bit, but then he reached back out not too long ago. And the interesting part of it is the why would he be part of our family, and why would God allow all of that pain and hurt, and then have him go live on an Indian reservation where his family, literally could not afford to keep up with his care. I mean, they could not afford to take care of him. And it's a very broken system, right? And he and I had this conversation. And the one thing I can say is I don't think we don't always get, not ever, but a lot of times we don't get the why, But I think what's beautiful is he realizes that as a young adult, he realizes that he would not be the man that he is today had he lived with us. However, he jokingly also said he would not be sad to have lived with us.
Yeah.
He would have loved to know, the outcome of that story. So that was our very first placement. Like I said, amazing child in terms of ease of care and just sweet, just a good boy. And golly, bright, super talented artistically, inquisitive, loved to learn, loved to be part of the family, loved Molly, our dog at the time. Loved Maddie, loved you so much, and Quinn as well. And so all of us heartbroken when he had to leave. So Daddy and I talked about it. We talked to you kids, and we're like, let's maybe breathe a little bit before we open our home back up again. And so we let our caseworker know, hey, we're not quitting, but we need a little bit of time if we could. And so, it wasn't terribly long, but we did wait a little bit of time, and then I called back up there and let them know, I think we're ready, to do this again. Unbeknownst to us, maybe we weren't, but we said yes. So we got a call for a little girl this time who was a year younger than you, and it had been, I guess, a couple of months because you guys were back in school, so several months actually. Mm. And so, again, this case was a little girl who was 6 in the first grade. You were 7 in the second grade, or 6 going on 7 in the second grade. And she was, I think she was like level 3, maybe it was 4. I don't know that we ever got a child that was under 4. But what they explained to us versus what reality was very different. Mm. So she came over, again, ordered Chinese, because who doesn't love some chopsticks and a fortune cookie? And from the moment that she entered our home until 3 months later when the courts turned her back over to her father, it was an all-out battle to get her to obey, to be kind, to not wet her pants or poo in her pants. I mean, it was daily. It was a daily fight. And knowing she was not able to be alone around you or Quinn because she absolutely would not behave, was very, very manipulative, very naughty, very defiant, very disrespectful. Good case in point, we went, as we do during the holidays, we went to Atlanta. We're in the car with you three. Always get stuck in Birmingham, Alabama. I do not know why, but it is like a guarantee. If you're driving from Memphis to Atlanta, you go through Birmingham, you will get stuck. There will be an accident. There will be construction.
Yeah.
Always. And so it put us behind like 2 hours. By this point, it's like midnight. It is the like fallish winter. I think it's around Thanksgiving. It was pretty cold, whatever. So, we're all wearing winter coats, whatever. She's pitching a fit. She's going to get sick in the car, of which we can't have anybody getting sick because Dad and Quinn both with a horrible gag reflex. And so we finally make the decision. It's now rounding 1 o'clock, and we're like, okay, we're just going to pull over and get a hotel because we literally, I don't think we went maybe a half a mile in 2 hours.
Yeah.
It had shut down. So we get off, go find a hotel, go to check in, and we go to get out of the car. And of course, when we're traveling, you can take your shoes and socks off, your coat, whatever. And so we told all of you, get your shoes on, grab your coat. We're going to run in and we're going to spend the night, and then we'll get up and we'll head out to Aunt Lisa's. Well, she absolutely refused. I mean, top of her lungs, screaming. She is not going to put on shoes. She's not going to wear a coat. She's not getting out of the car. And, at her age, we don't pick her up. She's capable of walking, therefore she has to walk on her own. Dad's tired. I'm tired. Y'all are all exhausted. And so we very clearly said, you will get out of this car and you are going inside. We're not staying out in the parking lot tonight. It took about 15 minutes. Finally, she got out. She came into the hotel screaming that she was going to kill us and stab us and cut us up with a knife. And it was really fun. It sounded like, it sounded like we were torturing her as she was screaming all of these horrid things. So finally, and we do tell the front desk that we need a cot up in our hotel room. So we have 2 queen beds and a cot. She sleeps on the cot. Y'all sleep in the twin bed, or we, split up. Everybody sleeps in the queen beds. Well, we go upstairs, and to this point in time, she had been with us, I think for 2 months. It was well into her time with us. And from the time that she came to our home, she wet the bed every night. And so I was very used to that. We worked on it with her, just different things that we did with her to try to help reassure her. She did not need to protect herself. She was going to be safe in our home. That's very much a coping mechanism of children being sexually abused.
Yeah.
And so, so she had gotten a lot better. And why I say that is because she actually was wetting her pants daily at school as well, or defecating. And so she and her teacher and I and the guidance counselor, principal, we worked tirelessly to love on her and getting her the therapy she needed and counseling. Even things like getting her ears cleaned out. Like it was just, God bless her, poor baby. She just was not well kept, and on top of that, showed very clear signs that she had been in a situation where she was being sexually molested or sexually abused, I should say. All this to say, back to the hotel. I give some detailed information, so now you understand the why here. So we get into the hotel room. Again, haggard, exhausted. It's now 1:30 probably in the morning. We all just want to go to bed. She is literally still screaming at the top of her lungs how she's going to kill us all. And I just very calmly told her, I need you to please go sit on the potty. You have to go use the potty before you go to bed and put your pajamas on. I gave up on brushing teeth, washing faces, all that. I'm like,
we were all like, we're
at this point, just please use the restroom before you go to bed, and then I don't have to worry about soaked clothes to get to Atlanta. So that was another 25-minute ordeal. Finally got that done. And eventually, so got everybody into the bed except for her. She stood next to her cot, screaming, 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 screaming. And finally, I went against protocol as a foster parent, and I scooped her up and held her like a baby in my arms and just rocked her back and forth, and just in her ear whispered, "I'm not going to hurt you. You are safe with us," over and over and over and over. And it took almost a full hour of me doing that, and finally she let go and she went to sleep. And it was a very tender moment, but it was one of those things where it was like going into an arena and going freaking to war.
Yeah.
Because that was a daily event with her. It was, at that point, I'm pretty sure 2 months, so 60 days, day in, day out, of yelling, screaming, threatening, pottying, throwing things, scratching, biting, clawing, you name it, we were dealing with this daily with her. And occasionally we would get a little glimpse of her. Those all were behaviors that she was using to protect herself. And we knew that. It doesn't mean it wasn't exhausting, because it was. Don't hear me say that it was not hard. And this was 3 of the hardest months I've ever done in terms of taking care of another human. So we actually had a really good trip. She really, really let down some of that behavior finally. And then 2 weeks later, we went to family court, and they had appointed a CASA for her, which is someone who just represents the child.
Okay, yeah.
And this is a volunteer position. People do it. It's super cool.
Yeah, I know some people who do that.
That have, give their time. And then in this situation, she had an attorney and her father had an attorney. Dad and I went to court, and her father's attorney, we were all standing out in the lobby area, and her father, when he would come, would put her on his lap, and it was very evident that he was inappropriately enjoying that. And it would boil my blood. I would stand there, and we weren't allowed to say anything. We reported it, but it didn't matter, because unless something is actually happening past that, they don't do anything about it. And he was already, she'd already been removed for miscare and whatever else. So her attorney is someone that if I saw today, I would have some really nasty words for. I don't know why, but he made it his vendetta to ensure that Dad and I were never allowed to see the judge and share the information that we were recording. So I kept a daily journal, and I had turned it into our caseworker. Our caseworker was like, we're going to need to give this to the judge, because it is very evident that she has come from something a lot more than what we've actually seen. And according to the father at that point, he claimed that her mother had died, and it was just him. What I found out, because I am definitely someone who looks into things, so I went to researching online. I found this woman alive. We actually did get in touch with her. Her school teacher actually was the one who kind of turned me on to a little bit of extra information. And so it was wild. So all of this happening, we come home from the holiday, we go to court, and we had been in court the previous time, a month ago, and we were told we were no longer allowed to come in. The judge didn't need us in there. Well, come to find out, it was because her attorney and the CASA that she had, I don't know how this attorney did it, but he like convinced them that we were making up stories about her, wetting the bed and doing and saying the things that she was doing and saying. And but her father's attorney walked up to Dad and I and said, whatever you have to do, don't let her go home with him. Mm-hmm. Okay, this man chanced being disbarred to come and even approach us, much less say something to us. And he spoke it really to Dad, like in his ear, because they were more like in height line and up next to Dad's ear. So I couldn't hear every word, but I could hear enough to understand what he was saying. And so we got a continuance, but then had to come back in 2 weeks. And at that point, there was a new attorney for him. And like I said, we never got to give the judge any of that information. And the judge ruled in favor of the father. And that day, we had to go pick her up from school and bring her to him up at the agency, right? So we go pick her up from school. We go home, I pack all of her things, put them in the car, go up to the school to pick her up. And we tell her when we pick her up that we're headed over to meet up with her dad and that she's going to go live with him again. And for the first time in those 3 months, that baby reached around the back seat, grabbing at me, screaming, begging me, Mommy, please don't make me go. Please, Mommy, don't make me go with him. Please. For 20 minutes, she's just blood-curdling, screaming, begging, clawing this whole ride. And we keep trying to reassure her, sweetheart, the judge said you have to. Mommy and Daddy cannot keep you at the house or the police will come and take you. Mm-hmm. We have to do this because this is what the judge says. Please, Mommy, please, I'm begging. I'm just crying, screaming. And I held her hand, I stroked her little head and just tried to reassure her. As we turn the corner, she knows where we're going, and as we turn the corner and she sees the sign of the organization, it was like this, I don't even know how to describe it, but it was like something just flipped a switch in her little body, and she let go of me, sat back in her seat, and was just expressionless in her face. And we pull in the parking lot. She gets out of the car. I try to give her a hug. I try to say something to her. She absolutely nothing. So obviously she's right back into protection mode. Mm-hmm. And we give her bags to her dad, of which he had a pickup truck, had it completely packed down, and fled the state. And to this day, I have no idea what happened to her. But of all the children that ever came through our home, she is the one that really and truly haunts my thoughts, because he clearly was doing things that he should not have been, and also at that time had another man in her life that lived in the apartment or the hotel room with them and went places with them. Like, it was not good. And we saw the attorney, Dad and I did, at court, and he came up to us and he made just a snide comment to Dad. And Dad and I both, I grabbed Dad's hand and kind of squeezed it because I could tell, his jaws were popping and that vein was coming out. And I just said, not here. And Dad just walked straight, and he walked straight into the man. I mean, he caught him with his shoulder, and he was like, we have nothing to say to you. again, back to the why, I literally have absolutely no idea, because I can tell you this, for as hard as we worked with her and as hard as it was to love her, she did not make it easy, but also whatever that baby had gone through and was carrying with her at 6 years old, it had to be horrific, because no child, I know we all come in this world a hot mess of flaws and sin, but no child is acting that way because
No.
they come from a loving environment and,
No.
and things like that. So, yeah, we went extreme. We went from super easy to being yanked out to super difficult and wanting to be able to, I mean, we would have adopted her easily. But that was just insanity how that all went down. And then over the course, so we fostered a total of 7 children in our time of fostering, and we did it over a 7-year period. So, you know, we would have children maybe for a weekend or a week. We had one for a week while his family was on I think it was an international trip, and he was a baby, so like they weren't trying to take him on a mountain hike. That was a lot.
Might be a little.
Uh-huh. And then, but we, you know, one time we had a sibling group, and one time we had a little fella that was gonna be with us for 3 months, and it wound up being 13. You know, we had a grown fella that came and spent his senior year with us. So like, I don't know, we opened our home with the expectation that we were going to grow our family by adoption, right? And we never did. We had 2 times we were picked for infants that were, their parents' rights had been terminated and they were ready for adoption, and they were brand new babies. The first time, it was an African American little boy. And the unfortunate part of foster care in our system is it's very broken. When they get a file of someone, like a person or a family that's a good match for adoption, it's supposed to be redacted. And part of that is like ethnicity, because quite frankly, ethnicity, albeit you may not be the same ethnicity, however, it's supposed to be that doesn't impact or affect whether or not you are a candidate for adoption. Well, the organization that we fostered through let me know that for some reason our file wasn't redacted when it went to the state, and that was confirmed when they came into our home to interview us, and one of the workers for the state came in and was adamant that we were not the right ethnic group, and why would we be good or okay to have this child come into our home. And I told her, I said, I can 100% agree with you. I mean, we're obviously not the same ethnicity. However, we live in a city that's exceptionally diverse. I'm surrounded with people of the same ethnicity who have been on this journey of fostering with us. And we've had kids of all kinds of different ethnicities coming in and out of our home. And culturally, we make it a point to raise our children that way as well, where we know about other cultures, not just eating the food, but I mean like actually knowing facts and history and having friends who are from those cultures, because we want our children to be open-minded and open thinking when it comes to people, because your culture should not ever deter someone from being, you know, able to love you and welcome you into your circle, if you will. Anywho, that was devastating, because I'm like, I can't change that about myself. Like, I can't change the fact that my family is what it is. It's who we are. So that was a really hard closed door. And then a second time, same thing, infant needing a home, and they put this baby with another family or whatever. And so after that happened a second time, I did tell Dad, as far as I was concerned, that I was good at saying no thank you to that anymore, because that roller coaster is just like what it was like when we had the little fella, and we thought we were on this path, and then all of a sudden you just get yanked off of it. And I didn't want to put our family through that anymore. And also I didn't want it to be me being selfish, me wanting to be a mom one more time kind of situation. And so we laid that down. And so I said this, I think, a couple episodes ago, talking about when I speak to groups and things like that. One fun fact about myself I'll say is I'm the mom of 13, and people are like, oh my God, 13 kids, not counting John, y'all.
Yeah. Dad appreciates that.
Yeah. But very truthful statement in that I have 2 bio kiddos, I have 4 babies in heaven, and I fostered, I have 7 honorary Edwards through foster care. And so, I try to bring us back to this whole ribbon of redemption thing and talking about like how God redeems situations. I mean, physically, if you've heard that part of my story, I shouldn't have been able to have children, right? And yet I have 2 that I've gotten to be a mommy to. And then it wasn't the way I would have chosen to be a mom of 13. However, also, I'm very thankful for each one of you, because of, albeit I get to be with you as long as I'm on this planet, or 8 months of your time that you got to live with us, or whatever the case may be. I don't know. It's just kind of cool to be able to look back at. Now, in the midst of it, there were some really gut-wrenching days. There were a lot of fun days. We had some great times. Like firsts of a lot of our foster kiddos was a lot of fun. Like getting to see the ocean for the first time. We got to do that with a couple of them, and that was pretty remarkable. Got some pretty awesome pictures of the first look at the ocean.
Yeah.
Or like first foods. Never had a s'more before, or
Oh, Lord, yeah, I
remember that?
Yeah, oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he and I both, it was both of us, stuck the marshmallows on our fingers because we were like, oh my God, it's Spider-Man's webs.
It's a fun bath
We were a
night.
little bit of a dirty messes that
Yeah.
night, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I think what was so cool to watch, even though it was hard and it's messy, and it's one of the things I tell people like about fostering is it is one of the most beautifully broken, bittersweet, precious pieces of our story, I think, because it wasn't easy to do, and it was very clear we needed to. And then when you sit down and you really look back at all of the different children and the different caseworkers and staff and people that we interacted with, judges and all of the people in family court and whatever, so many lives were touched by those children, and I think that's super cool. And also, we always said, once in Edwards, always in Edwards. And so some of those kids, we still, everybody's now an adult, are pretty close to it. We'll still occasionally hear from. They'll reach out, It's part of the reason why I never changed my phone number. Still have that 901 exchange. And so I'm always reachable. But yeah, foster care for us, woof. You can really get stretched and grown through that.
Yes.
I don't know, though. I mean, were you thankful, like when you think about it, were you thankful that we did it?
Yeah, I think I was, for sure. I think after doing it a couple of times, though, I do know that Quinn and I were just mentally exhausted. And it wasn't because, we didn't love the kids that came through the house, anymore or whatever.
Yeah.
It was just more so there had been so much anticipation and disappointment. I think that we just were tired of it. So by the time we got towards the end, we definitely were more vocal about the fact we just didn't really want to foster anymore.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because, like I said, that we were like, oh, we don't like the kids or whatever. It was
Right.
just we were just really, really tired of there not being any results in terms of like us trying to adopt.
Right.
And whatnot. And I think that was really big. And I think too, because Quinn and I were getting close to each individually hitting different milestones, I think it was important that we stopped fostering when we did.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I think it was already hard, like with me going into middle school and Quinn going into high school.
Yeah.
I think it would have been even harder on top of that if we were still fostering.
Oh, yeah, for
during
sure.
that time. And
Absolutely.
so I think it happened when it was supposed to happen and it ended when it was supposed to end.
Yep, I
For
agree.
sure.
I agree. Well, and two, I know for Dad and I, keeping a very careful eye on both of you to make sure that we weren't asking too much. We knew we were stretching you both and growing you both. This situation was going to do that. It was doing it to us too.
Yeah,
But
it was going to happen to everyone regardless.
1,000%. And there was a time and a place, like you said. I think too, the last little one that we had, it was supposed to be just a few months and it turned into over a year.
Yeah.
And even I, at the end of that, was like, okay, boot in the butt. Daddy's got to, the child's father, not John,
Yeah.
has got to like stand up, and now it's time. You got it. You know, you got your life together a year ago, and now we're rolling into year 2.
Yeah.
It's time. And his story was probably the best out of all the kids that we fostered. It was kind of cool that was how it ended, was that this child got to go back home to a good home. His daddy adored him. He just had fallen on some really hard times.
Yeah.
He
Oh,
made
yeah,
some
he's-
really bad choices to get there.
Yeah.
However, he got himself together.
Yes.
He got a job. He got a place to live. He got a car. And he got to do all of that while we were helping take care
Right.
of his son. And again, his son came with me to school. And so he was around women that worked for me that loved on him and just took such good care of him. And his dad was super active in his life. Like he still would
Yes.
visit,
Yeah.
you know, every single week, usually twice a week he would go with his dad, depending on his dad's work schedule. And his dad came to church with, I mean, like it was a beautiful, it was hard and a lot longer than what we anticipated.
Right. Yeah.
But the great thing about his little story is that he, for the first time in all of the children that we sent back home, he was the first one out of all that we knew 110% he was going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I think if you're going to stop fostering, that's the note you want to end on. You know what I mean?
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, because I would have died if it had been like a horrible thing, and then that would have been devastating, and that would have wrecked me, I think, even more than it wrecked me anyway. But what's really amazing is that as his time was winding down with us, so then became the time for us to make the decision that maybe Memphis wasn't where we were going to stay.
Yeah.
And with that great segue.
Oh, look at that segue. Oh my gosh.
Look at me. Oh. I am going to wrap it up for today, but definitely want to extend a great thanks to everyone for joining us. We appreciate you all so much being on this journey with us, albeit not always easy to tell some of this stuff, you know. But I definitely know we always want to make sure that you know you have a seat here at our table with us, and we just appreciate you. So until next time, y'all, have a great day.